Welcome to Night Shadows. I'm Stewart Best, where the paranormal is normal, where that which you thought you knew, you didn't, and where the future can be known if you know exactly where to look.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks, excuse me, for tuning in and listening. Hi, Larry. How you doing up there on your mountain?
Oh, just keeping an eye on things.
Well, there's a lot going on, and we can't cover a lot of it. I'm doing this just for half an hour and ready for Friday, which I don't know if it'd be an hour and a half, but there's a lot of stuff, and I wanted to start. Many of you probably have realized that in Jeremiah, not only do we have a wide open border that the Lord himself does to fill us with fifth column military types who rise up against us, but he also makes a very interesting comment about a rumor that goes throughout the land in 1 year, and then another and then the same rumor in another year or 2 years. And I often thought that might be the Y2K rumor, because that was exactly 2 years, and then it went away. But the way the thing is worded, it says, after the 2 years, violence in the land, ruler against ruler. So now I want to read something that somebody sent over. Will tomorrow's Mueller Report, so he wrote it Wednesday, which was released today, fulfill the 2-year rumor of Jeremiah 51:46 and bring violence to our land and ruler against ruler. Divide and conquer. This is all part of the matrix, all part to keep you busy so that you're not doing what Jesus Christ told you to do. Anyway, the conspirators from Psalm 2 have an event planned that will be greater than their September 11, 2001 surprise that fell on day 254 of the year, leaving 111 days remaining in 2001. Their numeric predictive programming in reverse is one of their modes of operandi, and that their New World Order scheme of things. Isn't it ironic that April 20th, 2019 is day 111 this year and falls, excuse me again, between the evening of Passover, April 18th, and Easter Sunday, April 21. Note in Jeremiah 51:39 through 40, it is the Lord who is preparing their feasts to bring them down like lambs to a slaughter. We have another Passover reference in Isaiah 21:4, where in the night he longed for turns into fear. The table was prepared for drinking and eating when the destruction comes from Iran and Russia. Isaiah 21:2 through 9. That destruction is referenced throughout Jeremiah 50:51, Revelation 18:8 through 10, telling us fire will be the cause of it will occur in 1 hour of the day. The prophet Ezekiel, looking forward through the tunnel of time, saw the obelisk from Egypt standing in the valley of vision between our Capitol Dome and the Lincoln Memorial in chapter 30. And in the day of Egypt, he saw 8 cities will burn with fire, Ezekiel 30:18. We read in Jeremiah 50:31 through 32, I will kindle a fire in her cities, and it shall devour all around about him. Israel became a nation. May 14, 1948, 70 years have been determined. We are in the 3rd day, the 12th month, the 17th year. In Jeremiah 29:10 through 14, we read, the Lord said, after 70 years will be accomplished at latter-day Babylon, I will visit you and perform my good word towards you and cause you return to this place. He is going to gather the Jews, actually, from all the nations, where he has caused them to go into captivity and bring them home again into the place where they went in exile, the land of Israel. The great work of latter-day redemption is witnessed in Jeremiah 31:8 through 9, Jeremiah 32:37 through 41. Before this second Exodus and after the coming attack on our cities, we will face tribulation and captivity for a while. Get ready, folks. We are in the last month. Will violence explode during this time? Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Repent. The kingdom of God and the authority of his Messiah is at hand. Isn't that interesting, Larry?
Well, it is. And as a matter of fact, Darnett just forwarded you a copy of a tune, if you will, that was in the McCurtain County, Oklahoma today. And if you
You're breaking up very badly.
Can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay. As you know, Trump uses Game of Thrones symbology. And
yes.
Darnett sent you by email just a minute ago a cartoon from the McCurtain Gazette out of Oklahoma today, which is really interesting to go along with what you just read, because it says Game of Thrones Trump Edition, and on the front of it, it shows Trump riding a Twitter bird who is issuing forth from its mouth fire and flames on the obelisk and the Congress building, and in other words, Trump's riding the Twitter bird and attacking Washington, actually with fire, and that's almost what you read, actually. And Trump is saying to Kerry's, he says, winter is coming and caravans of criminals. And I find that rather telling. That seems to go along with what you just read a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, there's weird stuff going on here, and I wanted to bring up the black hole saga. Remember, they had the picture of the black hole they released on the 10th. Well, here's some interesting information. A black hole. Now, a black hole, according to scientists, is a portal. It's a gate to another dimension, they think. Walt Disney issued a movie long ago called The Black Hole. And in the movie, the good guys go through the black hole to a whole other universe. The bad guys end up in hell. But what was interesting about it is how they did this. Pictures were taken actually in 2017 from the 4th of April, which is a 44, to April 11th, which is a 4/11, exactly 7 days. 4/11 is the date that the two huge comets seen all over the world by humanity crossed over the star Algol, the head of Satan. One in 1996, the other in 1997, 22 and 23 years ago. 22 means symbolic of the Genesis prophecy that Christ's work on the cross would crush the head of Satan. Those two comets formed a perfect cross in the heavens. The black hole that was shown in pictures comes out of Virgo, the star sign, the same constellation that the star sign of Revelation 12 was shown in 2017 on the Feast of Trumpets, 9/23/2017, 2 years from the date that Obama and the Pope had their handshake on 9/23/2015 and began, I guess one could say, the UN agenda of 21-30-50. The picture was released to the public on April 10th, 8 days before Passover begins on the 19th, and some say it begins on the 18th. I guess it depends on how you want to look at it, which is 17 days from the release of the first fruits, or the date of first fruits. The object is found in Messier 87 in Virgo, and it's the most powerful emitter of cosmic radiation frequency known, and it is the center of the galaxy cluster known as the local group, of which Milky Way is only one of them. Now, a black hole is a portal. It's a doorway. Revelation chapter 4, verse 1. After this, I looked, and behold, a door was opened in heaven. And the first voice which I heard was, as it were, of a trumpet talking with me, and said, Come up hither, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter. Now, after this, after what? After the church age. Revelation 2 and 3 are the 7 letters to the 7 churches, which is prophetically, the entire church age. And it says, after the church age, a portal opens up in heaven. What did we just see? A black hole in Virgo. It's not by accident, folks. We're being told something. And all of these kind of signs, like the Notre Dame fire, these are all signs of Antichrist coming to the fore. And it was very, very interesting. If you do kind of a word set, I don't want to get into the whole thing. I'll save that for tomorrow night. But the word door, this is what the actual meaning is: a portal or entrance, a door or a gate. Now, the word opened means to open up. The word trumpet, remember he said he heard a trumpet? This is where it really gets interesting. Quivering or reverberation. That is, reverberation is a frequency wave. Maybe this is a reference of some scientists, Paul LaViolette being one, and there's a mystic over there in Bolivia who said that a cosmic fire wave was coming through, and when it did, it was going to make certain people vanish, and of course that would be the removal of the Christians in the twinkling of an eye. But isn't it interesting that the trumpet is a reverberation or a frequency wave? The sound of a trumpet would be what humanity would hear as it sweeps by earth. Now, the word hereafter is kind of interesting because it means after what? Come up hither means to arise or ascend or to come up. So the question is, for all you people out there that like this sort of stuff, why is a portal opening up just before Passover and then later the ascension of Christ? Is it just another sign of the soon removal of the church? Or is it a sign that Antichrist is rising up? And why does that sign appear in Virgo? On the 19th, the start of Passover, the moon actually will be under the feet of Virgo. What do you think about that, Larry? You just shake your head in wonderment at what the Lord is trying to show people.
Yeah.
Amazing. Anyway, Notre Dame. I don't know if you people out there have watched Pet Goat 2. Pet Goat 1 is also very interesting. If you watch them, you want to also watch the people who have really studied this out and told you what it all means. But in Pet Goat 2, it's very, very interesting because you have Notre Dame in there, the cathedral. And as Antichrist is coming out of his hidden tunnel and emerges on his little boat, Antichrist's eyes, he has the all-seeing eye, I believe it is, or the pyramid on his forehead. His eyes are on fire, burning. The cathedral behind him falls, and it falls exactly as was shown in Notre Dame in the real fire and the spire falling. Now, this is what you call predictive programming, where they know ahead of time, for whatever reason, whoever shows it to them. Now, this is also interesting, that right after that spire falls in Pet Goat 2, as Antichrist is going out into the waters, you see a meteor come down and strike the pyramids all three of them, as it descends down to the ground. And in the sky is the sign of the scorpion, Scorpio. This is all very, very interesting predictively. Now, if you go to the Simpsons, shows Notre Dame, fire, and then after that, it shows a meteor hitting the earth. And just before the meteor hits, the people that are around rise up into the heavens and vanish. So, I don't know what all they're showing you, but I'd like to make sure everybody realizes all this, because we are definitely being shown all these things by the Lord. If you got eyes to see, you can definitely see it all. Very, very interesting. What else do you have? Let's move on to the news, Larry. I know you've got a lot of stuff. It's kind of in the background hidden. It appears that nothing is going on, but it is.
Well, I've got something to add to what you were just talking about. You were talking about Antichrist, et cetera, and the Notre Dame. Isn't it interesting, or just by chance, that, Barack Obama and Michelle Obama were in Germany and in the region of the Notre Dame when it burned down? As a matter of fact, I don't know where Barack Obama was. He had been visiting with Merkel, but the press identified Michelle Obama as being on a ship offshore when Notre Dame burned, and I find that really telling. Maybe the timing is a little odd, but by the way, Rabbi Glazerson just put out a very striking Torah code called Fire in Notre Dame, if you want me to share that.
Yes, read it.
Well, it's really interesting. It says, number 1, Notre Dame. Number 2, fire that God has ignited. Number 3, the crisscross. Number 4, Macron. Number 5, Islam. Number 6, Edom. Number 7, repentance. Number 8, the Messiah. Really interesting, and posted on the internet April the 16th.
Well, here's something. Robert Steele, you know who he is, I think. He's got Notre Dame Cathedral burning, false flag, complicity of the Pope, organized by Macron, Merkel, and May, each a Satanist, goal of saving the EU and central banks. Now, I don't know whether that has anything to do with it, but it's interesting that Macron is in that Bible code. And the fire that God ignited. Now, there is a video of a UFO over Notre Dame at the time it started the fire, and some witnesses said they heard a pop. Now, they're trying to cover that over and claim that it was just a circuit breaker that broke. Well, you'd have to be right next to a circuit breaker that pops or, goes to off. You would never hear that unless you were right there by the electrical circuits. And by the way, I was told that the power was off. So it couldn't be an electrical short circuit or fire. This was definitely a warning, I believe, to the church that the persecution, and it goes along with what Homer Simpson saw and they predicted. And remember that the Simpsons also predicted the death of Donald Trump. One of his sessions of the Simpsons, they show Donald Trump in a coffin.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that means that he's politically been assassinated or whether that's a real assassination. This is all very, very deadly, and you got to remember something, folks. We are in the middle of a huge, huge communist insurgency, and these people play for keeps. And they don't mind killing anyone. After all, they got rid of John Kennedy, too. They had no problem doing that. And then, of course, they get their deep state cronies to investigate and then issue a false report. If the American people ever found out the real truth of what goes on in Washington, I doubt if there's enough rope in the nation to hang them all with. But they'd sure be looking for that rope. We are in the middle of a huge communist insurgency. And it's just too bad that the American people can't see it, and they won't help Donald Trump at all. They're just sitting back twiddling their thumbs while the communists are coming in full speed, and we can only hope that Donald Trump is going to somehow pull the rabbit out of the hat and give us another little extension. I just don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see exactly what does happen. But anyway, there's a lot going on. And then we have the North Korean situation. What's your take on that, Larry?
Well, it's really interesting because apparently Kim just pulled off a military tactical weapon experiment, and the U.S. seemed to be unaware. So I'm wondering if Trump has ordered the deep state to watch closely what goes on in North Korea. Why were we not aware of that? And, of course, South Korea reported it, North Korea reported it, and reported it was successful. So and we're not sure what type of tactical weapon was used by Kim, but some are saying something similar to possibly a cruise missile, but very accurate. And it makes you wonder when he says tactical, there are tactical nuke weapons also, which can be a cruise missile. So maybe we're not on the ball as much as we think. Now, what's odd is suddenly now Kim has announced a upcoming meeting with Vladimir Putin of Russia, and also notified the U.S. that Pompeo will not be welcome at any further summits, involving North Korea. So this thing is really getting more bizarre by the day.
Well, I do remember the prophecy of, wasn't a prophecy either, I guess, what you could call remote viewers. They call it remote viewing for a reason. And they said it was North Korea that was going to use a nuke, be the first to use nuclear weapons in anger. And that reminds me of the prophecy of 2 American cities being destroyed by nuclear missiles, and nobody knew where they came from for a while. And that kind of reminds you of the Deagle report of a huge population reduction in America, which could include also the rapture and then the killing of all the Christians in America, which I think is just around the corner. By that, you don't know whether that means months, years, or whatever, but it's coming because the Bible prophet said it was coming. They're called the tribulation saints. And the tribulation saints are different than the Christians. In fact, if you read Revelation carefully, they're not even called Christians. They're not called part of the church. And anyway, all very, very interesting stuff. And then we have the Trump Mueller report. Those Democrats, those progressive communists, are never going to give up, are they?
No, they're not going to give up. It's an absolute insanity, but it's almost like being insane with a plan, because you and I both know that this is a communist takeover that's occurring in the nation, and the communists don't really appear to have any adversaries except Trump, because they're doing exactly what they want to do, and nobody's going to jail from that side that I can tell.
Exactly. There are no arrests on the Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, even though the evidence is absolutely overwhelming of criminal activity. Nothing is being done to them. But Trump, on the other hand, needs to be impeached, probably put in prison, if not worse, and so on it goes. And by the way, speaking about Trump and his love of WikiLeaks, have you heard anything more about Julian Assange other than the major dump that he did, dead hand dump of all kinds of activity? But have you heard about any of it and what it means? I haven't. The dump came out, and really no one's talking about that at the moment. We know that Assange is in probably prison in England for a year or whatever, but awaiting a
I think they said May extradition hearing, to send him to the U.S. So, and really, some of the really more knowledgeable individuals are saying this is really interesting because the only thing that Assange did was report credible news to the public. That's it.
Yeah. Well, of course, he, insulted the deep state. He revealed their secrets. So he'll be very fortunate if he gets out of England alive, let alone when he gets here. Now, there are some people trying to claim that Trump is behind it and he's doing it to save Assange. So we'll just wait and see what the intent really is. We won't know until it happens, if we ever hear about it. Fox News is definitely going the way of the liberals. A lot more anti-Trump than pro-Trump now. And then, of course, we have the border situation with more caravans on the way, and I don't see anything about stopping them. Have you heard any more? I heard something about, he was going to send more troops. But if the Pentagon doesn't obey him, then there are no more troops. And are we ever going to stop this, or is God holding this open for the final wave just before the end, do you think?
Well, I really don't know, actually, other than all I hear is talk. So I can't really tell you whether they're going to be stopped or not. It appears that they're coming in by the thousands. So
yes.
There you are. But it appears also, Stewart, that the American people are not troubled by it.
Well, they're soon going to be. It's just too bad that the blindness is here. And then what's this thing about the ships of the U.S. Navy all being outside of port and going into the oceans? Like they expect maybe an attack? That's the only reason I can see where you would send your Navy out of port. Have you heard any more about that? No way to vet that, I guess.
No, I don't have any way right now to vet it. The report was that all U.S. naval vessels have been sent to sea. And there's only two reasons I can think of that you would do that. Number one, that you're expecting an attack shortly and, don't want something like Pearl Harbor again. Or, this is something to think about too, Stewart. Number two, option possibly is you're going to do something that would provoke an attack on U.S. forces, and you don't want them to hit your Navy all in one or two places. And that might tie in, Stewart, and I have vetted a little bit that apparently Trump has sent 88 F-35 fighter jets to the Middle East, and reporting they're going to combat terrorism. And you got to remember, Trump just signed an executive order indicating that the Iranian military is terrorism.
Yeah, and of course the Iranians then said that America is a terrorist state. It reminds me of, I think it was a Hopi elder who said, what's the difference between a terrorist and a counter-terrorist? And he said, none. It all depends on which side you're on. So, yeah, here we go. And we're about out of time. So I just want to thank you, Larry, for coming on. Tomorrow we will have a little more news, and we can get into this more depth. There is something going on, and folks, what is going on, it does not sound to be very good. Trump is surrounded by mortal enemies. Whether he's complicit or totally innocent is actually immaterial, because he's either got to win this war or he's going to lose this war. And that includes the American people as well. It's just too bad the way the American people are so sound asleep, and nothing we can do about it. Anyway, thanks a lot, Larry, for coming on. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We will, the Lord willing, be on tomorrow night, and we'll have a longer program and bring up some more stuff that's very, very interesting. Anyway, thank you, and good night.